Listen, I'm not gonna waste too much time because basically the mic is hot and I'm feeling it right now. I'm kinda in the vibes. And so I'm gonna just try to keep it short and simple and to the point. If there's anything anyone ever knows about me, it's that I'm the living embodiment of the Earl Sweatshirt album. I don't like shit, I don't go outside. There's nothing in this world that I really like that much, but the things that I do, I'm extremely passionate about. One of those things is movies. And actually yesterday I was in the middle of recording a review, but as often is the case, I kinda just go in and nitpick my own lines and like to reset stuff and retool things. I tend to overthink things. But in between me going around and recording and doing edits and all that, I decided to hop on Twitter. And when I hop on Twitter, I look at the one other thing that I like, which is basketball. Freaking love basketball, like with a passion. When I was a kid, I wanted to be a basketball player. Now, and I ain't gonna hold you, when I was a kid, when I played basketball, I mean, I had a good year where I was like the shit, and that was in middle school, bro. Why? Because I was one of those high floor, low ceiling type kids. I grew very fast as a kid. I was like 6 foot before 10 maybe. Honestly, I think I was like 8 years old when I was already 6 foot, but I never got any taller than that. So when I was a kid, I played like a big because, I mean, I was big. I was also rotund as all hell. Like, I was straight up Barkley. So I basically played power forward all through elementary and middle school, but then once everyone else got taller and I had not, I was just getting heavier, I became straight dog shit. Mostly because I had very, very low basketball IQ, because what had been working for me had worked for me for so long that I never learned how to do anything else. I couldn't shoot for the life of me outside of shooting in the post. I did drop steps and stuff. I was a weird type of 6 foot tall guard because I kept that same play style even way out of playing in middle school. But that's mostly because I was influenced by certain types of players. If I had to make a list of my 5 favorite players at each position, I mean creating a starting 5 lineup, my starting 5 would probably be Gilbert Arenas, Allen Iverson, LeBron James, Charles Barkley, Shaquille O'Neal. It's just the 5 players that I like at each position the most. And if you haven't noticed anything about that top 5 list of players right there, 3 of those 5 players have never won a championship. In fact, in No Chill Gill's case, it's just straight fell off for one reason or another, but I still love No Chill Gill. In fact, I love all these guys. That's why they're my top 5 favorite players at each position. But you'll also notice the fact that 3 of those 5 have never won a championship, and like a vast majority of them, and really when you get down to LeBron James too, are kind of knuckleheads, but on or off the court, well, LeBron's Mr. Perfect, but you know what I mean. It's like, I personally don't put tons of stock into somebody having necessarily the highest IQ. Like, I mentioned that story about me being a knucklehead kid basketball player for a reason, because when I was watching these guys playing, I wasn't thinking about the X's and O's of everything. I was just like, yo, it's super dope how that dude is just gonna run around and shoot that shot. He's got mad energy and I'm all about it. And that's the kind of hype I feel about Russell Westbrook. So I said all that to say this, because that's a whole big 3-minute spiel in the beginning. Yesterday, while I was surfing through NBA Twitter, I saw a post from Russell Westbrook from, I believe it was NBA on ESPN. I don't have it in front of me offhand, and I'm not really scripting this shit. I'm just kind of talking into the mic. I have stats like pulled up in front of me and things like that, but that's for a reason that I'll get to in a moment. So I pull up NBA Twitter and I see Russ had got asked a question basically about the Lakers struggling with their, I think they're below 500 as of writing this. I don't know for sure, or maybe they're dead even. But he was basically asked about their record and, seeding in the playoff and things like that. And he more or less said, hey man, when we get to the playoffs, it's 0-0. We all just, nobody has the records don't matter. You got to go in and you got to win a series. I vibe with Russ. I genuinely like Russ. Now, I'll go a step further. I fucking love Russ. Like, I was one of them dudes that was like, hey, yo, man, give me Russ over Curry, bro. No lie. I was an idiot like that, bro. I was influenced by guys who ran to the basket, especially shorter guards like Gill and AI. And of course, I played like a big because I was technically a big and I was big as all hell. So when I see a guard like Russ, a post-playing guard, I was immediately enamored with this nigga, and I don't know why. Actually, that's not true. I do know why, because I saw a lot of myself in Russ. Russ plays a similar style of basketball that I was taught how to play, and I personally try to play myself. It's 110% effort. It doesn't matter if you're the best player on the court or not. It doesn't matter if you're the tallest player on the court or not. You're still just going to give your whole heart to every single aspect of the game, which I admire. Like I said, I like Russ. Everything about Russ and his mentality is what I want to see out of a lot of other players. It's one of the things that frustrates me about LeBron sometimes, is that he's just completely passive when he's 6'9", 280 pounds or something like that, and he can just bulldoze most human beings. But, whatever is whatever. Russ is still Russ, and I still like Russ. We all like Russ for what he is. The problem is what Russ is always turned up to 1,000. So when I look at Russ, I look at him as an MVP caliber Kuz. So that leads me all the fuck way around to my main point, because after I saw that post from Russ, I got heated, because it felt like to me, reading it, that Russ was just like poo-pooing the regular season, and that's really just been the kind of theme around Lakers fans for like the longest time since the season started, since they got Russ basically, minus a handful of people who are actually fully aware of just how bad the Lakers are. But then that brought the question in my mind, is like, yo, if Russ just feels like the regular season doesn't matter, you know, and it's just going into the postseason, well, we saw that a couple years ago with the Clips when they got straight up big hurt cheek busted by the Denver Nuggets in the playoffs. All right, clearly the regular season matters, and I understand that the Lakers have had injuries and continuity issues, and their lineups are absolute dog garbage. I'm not gonna say like Frank Vogel is some genius-minded coach. You know, he's putting in bad lineups that don't help Russ in a lot of ways. But then, you know, after recording it, I stopped and thought about it, and I was like, man, why am I going this hard on Russ? You know, Russ is just playing his game, and he's back home being hyped up. I know I'd be doing the same thing if I was him. Also, it's not 100% his fault. There have been injuries. Frank Vogel been running a trash lineup, and I mean, what can I say? I'm not even a Lakers fan. I'm from New York City, bro. I'm a Knicks fan, and honestly, we all know what's going on with them right now, and we all know how any given day what I could be feeling about James Dolan and Julius Randle, which we need to pack both of them up in some kind of package. But in the middle of putting myself back in the mindset to go back and make some movie review, I went back on NBA Twitter, and then I just seen the same thing over and over and over again. Now, this was a couple days ago, but it was still like the most consistent thing back from like the end of January of Russ fans. I'm not even Russ fans. I'm a Russ fan. I mean Russ stans, like wild Russ stans, who were just trying to make any excuse in the world for why Russ shouldn't be traded and all this and that. And I'm like, I get it. I said some wild stuff about Russ in my video before, but then I look close and I'm like, yo, these dogs just straight lying out here, bro. Well, I don't want to necessarily say lying, but definitely over exaggerating on certain aspects of it. As a basketball fan, basketball stans, in my opinion, are probably the worst, if not just that second worst, right behind a lot of football fans, mostly because I feel like the NFL's racist as shit and a lot of its fans are, and I have no interest in watching that. Shouts out to Josh Allen though. But specifically with NBA fans, when they stand a particular player, like there is no wrong that player can do in their eyes. It don't matter how shit they are, and Russ is the perfect example of that. So once again, I'm scrolling around on Twitter and I see this post. I don't know who this person is. I don't know. They're probably a nice person, good dude, person, man, woman, them, they, whatever their preferred pronoun is. They clearly like have a passion for basketball, but also their opinion's clearly biased as all hell, in my personal opinion. See this post here, and it reminded me of Russ's brother getting on that Twitter, I don't know what they're called, like chats or whatever. I don't know, I'm an old nigga. I don't know what stuff's called anymore. It's young people technology. But I seen Russ's brother got in that big Twitter chat with everyone, and he seemed cool about it. Like, I don't got no problem with Russ's brother. Obviously, it's his brother. He's gonna stand for him. And then hopefully in private tell him like, yo, bro, you playing like some shit. We need to get you in the gym. And at that point, I wasn't really above slandering him. And honestly, you know what? I'm gonna just play you a clip of the audio that I made about that rant beforehand and why it was so wild to me that I was making it and decided to flake on it. I mean, honestly, if I'm the Lakers, I'm trading Russ for like seconds or something like that, bro. I mean, I kind of wish that, you know, if I was the Lakers, I'd wish I'd have Kuz back. At least Kuz trying this season. If you were listening to that last clip of audio, I straight up was just saying stuff like, we don't trade Russ for seconds. I'm not even a Lakers fan, but I'm saying like, yo, they need to trade this man for some seconds. That's how mad I was at the time. But I got over it because I'm like, that's wild. It's Russell Westbrook, bro. He's a star in the league, but he's just not playing like one right now. Then I seen this. NBA turnovers per game leaders this season. First, James Harden, 4.8 turnovers. Second, Luka Doncic, 4.5 turnovers. Third, Paul George, 4.2 turnovers. Fourth, Trae Young, 4.2 turnovers. You'd think Russell Westbrook would be first with the agenda the media has been trying to push. But it's this. It's these tweets like this. Washed, Russell Westbrook versus all-star starter Andrew Wiggins. And these are only a few examples, mostly just because I didn't feel like sifting through this garbage for too long. But I know for a fact, even looking through the comments of these, like a lot of Russ fans feel this way. I went to school for psychology, and one of the greatest things I was ever told by a teacher is that there are 3 great lies in this world. There's lies, filthy lies, and statistics, because you can take a statistic of anything and just flip it and warp it to however you want. And when I originally made my Russ video, there were no stats involved. I was just talking about vibe and feel for the game. But then when I look in here and I listen to Russ's brother, and they always tell me, oh, so and so is the leader in turnovers, this and that. The big whole thing is Russ's energy, and he plays too goddamn wild. He just turns the ball over. It's the same shit as Kyle Kuzma. Like, you need to play smarter, bro. Like, that's it. There's not even any like eloquent way for me to explain it, and I'm rambling enough as is. But the nigga plays like like a moron sometimes, bro. But I saw that, like this tweet right here about the top 4 most turnovers in the league, and I noticed something. Notice that there's no number 5 there. Now, I don't legitimately know who number 5 is, but I know that Trae Young there is 4.2 turnovers. Now, if you look at them top 4 players right there, all 4 of those players right there, you could argue maybe not necessarily Paul George, given the fact that he's their forward/guard, but it's mostly because Kawhi is out. But for sure, James Harden, Luka Doncic, and Trae Young are the primary ball handlers of their team. And obviously, as the lone star on the Clippers, Paul George would be the primary ball handler because they really don't have a great point guard. So I went to look over at Russ's stats, and Russ is averaging on the season 4.1 turnovers. That's literally 0.1 less than Trae. I'd imagine, without even looking at the top 10 list, if 3rd and 4th are 4.2, Russ is probably in the top 10, if not literally number 5. Once again, I'm not looking. I don't really give a fuck. If Russ is just barely out of the top 10 or just barely out of the top 5, he's still averaging just barely literally 0.1 less turnover than fucking Trae Young and Paul George. Trae Young, the literal main scoring option on the Atlanta Hawks, a shitter team that literally only plays offense, he's averaging just 0.1 less turnover this season. And this was important to me because a lot of people on NBA Twitter like to point out this. Like I said, Russ's brother pointed this out. But the fact of the matter is like, as much as I like Russ, he's on the Lakers. He's not the primary ball handler of the team. And you may be going, oh, LeBron didn't play all the games. Oh, AD didn't play all the games. Bet, I got you, bro. Don't worry about that, because this is why I looked up stats. Because when I made that video about Russ, I felt genuine pain in my heart and fear that somebody would post that shit of being like, oh, actually, if you look at the top 4 players in the league, turnovers, there's not no Russ there, and would just actively avoid putting him in like whatever he would be, 6th, 7th. I legitimately don't know and don't care. It's irrelevant. It's just saying, trying to make it seem like, oh, Russ turning the ball over isn't really all that bad. So I decided to break this shit down even further. So let's go for, I don't know, about the first, I'll say 20 or so games, because it's separated like that on Basketball Reference, but you know, about 30 days of the season. Let's look at Russ's stats right here. On the first 20 games of the season, Russ averages 4.9 turnovers. Yeah, that's overblown, blah 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 blah. We're past that. Cool. But if you'll note about that 4.9 turnovers, this is where he was basically the primary ball handler, because LeBron James really wasn't playing all that much through these first 20 games. I mean, he has an entire stretch here in the middle where he's out for, I think that's 7-8 games, which, yeah, sure, being the primary ball handler, much like James Harden, he has slightly more turnovers. It just comes with the territory. But let's look at the next batch of 20 games. Here, LeBron only missed 1 game, and now LeBron is your primary ball handler. In this stretch of games right here, LeBron only had 3.2 turnovers, bro. As your primary ball handler playing center, he really don't dribble all like that crazy, but for some odd reason, somehow LeBron manages to have less turnovers than Russ. Because if you look at this 20 game stretch right here, Russ has 4.3 turnovers, and that is with LeBron as his primary ball handler. And yeah, 4.3 is slightly more than fucking Trae Young and Paul George, and he's not the primary ball handler. He's not that guy on the team anymore. He fucking has LeBron James. But to the 2 motherfuckers who I pulled out specifically, bro, and the people go on Twitter and constantly post about how, oh, Russ ain't that bad. Oh man, compared to this guy, this guy is some shit, blah 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 blah. Russell Westbrook versus all-star Andrew Wiggins, which once again, Russ is a fucking guard. You gonna put Russ and compare his stats to Andrew Wiggins, who's not a guard, not the primary ball handler on his team, not the star of his team. The star of his team is a fucking guard. But you also always note here, even in this one with the Russ versus Andrew Wiggins, they've keenly left out his fucking turnovers. And I wanted to point this out because Russ has not missed a single game, but if you look at Andrew Wiggins' games right here, he's played 47 games. Russ has obviously played 52, or how many ever games we are into the season. And I get it, Andrew Wiggins is not the primary ball handler on his team. He's got Steph, there's Clay, all other types of dudes that really do a lot of shooting, but he only has 1.5 turnovers. And I'm saying that because if you look at his minutes per game, he plays 31.7. If you look at Russ's minutes per game, he plays 34.8. In fact, I've actually stacked their stats here together, and if you look at them, yeah, sure, Russ obviously is number 1 in the per game numbers, but his role is different. If you look at Wiggs, let's ignore the fact that they play different positions. Wiggs shoots the ball way more efficiently, and he's averaging damn near the same amount of points on far less turnovers. And if you start to break Russ down, even if you want to be one of those I'm only going to pull stats where I want to pull stats type of guys, if you look down at the per 100 possessions, almost everybody's offensive rating is better than Russ is. Jeez Christ, if the per 100 possessions were to be like how it actually was, this man averages almost 6 turnovers per 100 possessions, whereas Wiggs only averages 2.3. Once again, I'm not big into those deep underlying stats here, and yeah, Russ ain't really a shooter like that, but I mean the fact that Russ is not a shooter, but he's still only shooting on the season like 40% from the field in 2-point range, like that's your whole thing, is getting to the basket. And yeah, you're shooting like Wiggs is shooting 50% from there, 53%, 40% from three. But if you didn't remember that clip I said from earlier about how I had to pick Kyle Kuzma over Russ, like the two aren't comparable. I'm just saying, like, it's not the same as you'd be like, oh man, compared to this, dude, oh Russ, I thought Russ was washed. Like, yo, how Russ is playing right now, he's playing like some shit. But y'all heard that clip, bro. Let's look at some stats right here. Here's somebody right now in the running for most improved who is playing comparable amounts of minutes to Russ, man. 32.2 or 33.2 minutes, and shooting about 46% from the field, 34% from three, shooting about almost 70% from free throw, averaging about 2.3 turnovers. And, oh man, that's, it's an alright player right here, man. Played 48 games. You know who stats those are? They're Kyle fucking Kuzma's stats, bro. The fact that Kyle Kuzma's stats are comparable to Russ's is fucking insane. It's Kyle Kuzma. I said earlier in the video that Russ is literally just MVP Kyle Kuzma. That somehow Kyle Kuzma's playing at a higher level than him right now, and Russ has an expanded role. Russ has not lost his role. Yeah, Kuzma's got a different role now in Washington. He's playing more and he's doing the scrappy rebounding and stuff. But once again, when you give Kuz the ability to play and just do more, he's gonna do more. The fact that he's been given a bigger role, he's playing comparable to how Russ is playing right, is honestly, and I'm certain that if I went and go and pull Russ's stats from his last year in Washington, they'd honestly probably look real fucking similar to Kuz's current stats on that team. But even comparing the two of these motherfuckers, which by the way, Kyle Kuzma is a knuckleheaded jackass, lesser Diet Coke version of Russ. He's just taller. That's literally it. But when you stack their stats together, Kuz tops Russ. Is Russ the better player? Hell yeah. Is Kuz currently playing better, playing smarter? Of fucking course. Russ is shooting a shit ton of shots and not making a bunch of them. I could literally go on and on forever about how Russ is playing bad, but here's my key point about Russ, and more specific than anything else. Russ has to have the worst fans in NBA history, bro. Like, they are the most, other than like the most bronze sexual on the face of the planet, is not a Russ stan. I don't even know what you want to call a Russ stan, but the fact that they'll literally just only pull stats that are relevant to them and just straight up like try to twist and warp shit to make it fit their agenda of saying, oh, Russ ain't washed, Russ ain't this, Russ ain't that. Bro, if you actually started to pull Russ's stats pin by pin by pin, and there are other people who have been doing it better than me. Yo, shouts out to TSO Sage, bro. That dude's a basketball savant. He's way more knowledgeable than I am. If you want a breakdown of like just how bad Russ was playing earlier in the season, or if you just want to know it because he's a big time Lakers fan, I'm not, and he follows them way closer than I do, yo, go check him out. For whatever reason, if you're listening to me and you don't listen to TSO Sage, you're wild for that. I'm also not a basketball YouTuber. Like I said, I mostly do movies, but I'm gonna stop rambling just because this was literally just me ranting, because it was pissing me off that people were like really trying to go out there and push the fact that Russ, he's not as bad as turnovers, but like his effective field goals, like the man's can't shoot, bro. I cannot. Here's the thing, it's the same as when I look at Ben Simmons. Like, bro, I get it, you just love playing basketball, I'm there too, but if I had your money, your skill, your talent, your fucking trainers, God forbid, let an NBA player reach out to me and is like, yo, bro, I'm gonna put you through the paces, we're gonna have you signed up with a personal trainer and you're gonna work out and either make the league or you gotta make a whole video about how Russ is the greatest player of all time. I take that bet every single time, and I guarantee I win a fucking 6 man of the year, because if you gave me the opportunity and I even got anywhere near sniffing close to the skill of Russell Westbrook, I never leaving the league, bro. But whatever, I'm gonna stop ranting, bro, because I gotta edit this shit. This is ridiculous, man. These boys really lying for Russ, bro. It's crazy.